Hey, I remembered at the beginning. Woohoo! All right, so welcome everybody to our Zoom training. We're gonna try to make it fairly quick tonight, if just because everybody's so busy. It's that time of year, but we want to get in some good information. So the first thing I'm going to share while people are joining is just this, in case you missed it, just this cute little video, because this is one of the things we're going to talk about. Oh, wait. I must share my screen, because I'm pretty sure you can't see that. Share screen. Yes. Share. Okay. Can everybody see the video? Yes? Can you? Okay. Hopefully you can hear it. Let's see. Okay, so stop sharing screen. Okay, so that was just my little intro, because that was Thanos. And we're going to talk somewhat about leave it, because that's a very important command that our dogs need to know. And your dog may be at the point where you say leave it and they leave it alone. And your dog may be at the point where everything they see, they go after. So our dogs are all at different points. If they're at the point where they're going after everything, don't get too frustrated, because we're all at different stages. And for instance, Thanos, that was a piece of pizza that was in the road while we were on our nightly walk. Maybe it was the afternoon. Anyway, we were walking and somebody had thrown pizza, like the crust, in the road. And I saw it before he did, but he saw it. The only thing I would have changed was I didn't have any treats with me. So normally I would not tug on a dog I might just give him a little jerk, but I was really having to hold tight to his leash, and I had no treats. So finally I called my husband. You didn't see that part of the video. I'm like, come down here, bring me a treat. Because Thanos was not leaving it. He was sitting there nicely, and there were times when I could like let go of the collar a little, or the leash a little bit, which is something we want to do. In fact, on lots of our commands, from heel next to us, where they're walking next to us and they have a nice loose leash, to leave it, to a lot of our commands where we're using the leash and collar, we want to kind of release it so that they can feel like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. And so on that leave it, every time he started to kind of even just look away, I would let go of that leash a little bit to let him know. And I was like, yes, good job, you're doing it. But he did not want to leave that pizza. Now, as soon as my husband brought a treat and I held it up, he said, okay, I'm good. And he left it. But that doesn't always happen. But it does often, especially if we have a high value treat. Now for Thanos, right now at 6 months of age, anything is high value. He doesn't care what it is. If it's a piece of food, he wants it. So he was willing to leave the pizza crust on the road. Now what's funny is, it's been several weeks since that happened. Just the other night, we were out playing ball, and he all of a sudden got a bug in his bonnet and ran down to where the pizza, it happens to be two houses down from where I live. He ran down and sniffed all over the place. So he remembered that piece of pizza was there. And I'm like, sorry, dude, it's all gone. It's been washed away. But yeah, so that training, that short little video was probably 10 minutes of me working on leave it and trying to coax him away and really praising him when he did look away from it. Now, he never actually got to the point where he would walk away with me until Tim brought me a treat. Once I had the treat in my hand, he was more than willing, like, yep, okay, I'm done, I'll give it up. But prior to that, so that just told me for right now, I need to keep working and using treats with Thanos to get him to do some of the things he'll do perfectly without being treated, but something like that where it's pizza or the treat mom has. Which do I really want? And so fortunately, he wanted the treat that I have once I got it. And I was pleased with that. But those are things that we're all in a different place. We're all progressing differently. All of our dogs are progressing differently. So it's important that you figure out where your dog is. The goal is if you drop something on the floor and you say leave it means leave it. It doesn't mean you get it 2 seconds later or you let them have it a little bit later. It means leave it. So one of the things you can do if they're going for something on the floor or outside or something and they do leave it, they turn to start to look at you, really praise them. And then that's where some of you who know your dog needs to have a treat, carry them with you. I'm not very good about that. Laura is super good about it. I'm not so good. I have to really make a mental, and I even have a bag of treats like sitting in my kitchen, a bag that I put around my waist, and I constantly forget it. So, and I know Thanos needs it, and even Bissell sometimes needs it. Sometimes he is a rock star, but other times it's just a treat that takes him. Where Nakona, she will be like, I don't need a treat for anything. I'll work no matter what you want me to do. So I got 3 different dogs at 3 different stages, and we'll do different tasks depending on sometimes their mood. It seems like that may not really be the case, but it seems like it to me. There's times when Thanos will leave it or drop it with no problem. And other times I'm like, come on, dog, what is your problem? So for those of you that are working with your dogs and they seems to be like leave it as a problem or it's something you're just constantly working on. So come back. I have some notes. One of the things that I've used in the past, and I know they talk about it, we've talked about it in trainings in the past, is holding a treat in your hand and letting your dog sniff it. And they just sniff all over your hand. And then as soon as they like act like they're like not interested anymore, they're disinterested, they turn their head away. That's when you want to be like, yes, good job, and treat them with something else. So you literally can just start in your hand by having a treat in your hand, hold it out to them. And of course, the first thing they're going to do is sniff, 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 sniff. And then eventually they're kind of going to get bored because you're not releasing your hand. So they're going to turn their head away as soon as they do that. It's a lot about timing. We talk about timing a lot. And you're just going to reward them verbally, yes, a marker, and then have another treat somewhere else, either sitting on the counter, in your pocket, in your hand, whatever. But don't give them the one from this hand or whatever hand you use. And that's kind of where we start. And then try that other places in the house. And then at some point you'll move outside and try it outside. And use different things like sticks, just whatever you tell them to leave, they must leave. And then you can't like give it to them later. So I normally don't use toys because unless I'm never going to let them use that toy again, I try not to make a toy a leave it thing. But I do use food a lot, and I might use maybe a stick or something like Thanos is really in love with little, they're palm something. And so I will use those with him because he loves to pick them up in his mouth. And I do want him to leave them alone. So we're working on that. Still not perfect. He also likes these really little tiny palm nuts. And he thinks it's so funny. They're more at Laura's house. Fortunately, I don't have them at my house, but Laura has them at ours. And they're real little and he loves them. And he knows he's not supposed to have them because he's kind of sneaky. So we're really working on getting him to leave it. When your dog is readily leaving the covered treat alone, so you want to cover it, then you could start removing your hand. So for instance, you place something on the floor, something you know you don't want them to get, place it on the floor, cover it with your hand, and tell them to leave it and see what they do. They're going to smell. So you start in your hand and then you move to the floor. But be ready, once you take your hand away, be ready to like protect it or cover it or whatever you have to do because you don't want the dog to get it. So like when I was out there with Thanos and the pizza, I literally let his nose get so close. But I did not let him get it. And I didn't yank him away. I just stood there with the leash and I let him get as close as he possibly could. And I just continue to say, leave it, And I waited and I waited and I waited. And like I said, had I had a treat and I had been able to offer that to him, I could have, he did look away several times, like, really? Aren't you gonna let me have that? And I'm like, nope. And so that was a work in progress. And we actually passed that pizza 3 times. So the time you're seeing was still the 3rd time. Because eventually, I think he would have gotten to the point where he would have realized that, oh, okay, this is like the 10th time we've gone by this pizza. She's not going to let me have it. But I did it 3 times. And at that point, I had to go inside and, continue my day because we'd spent it. Sometimes it's worth it to spend that little bit of extra time teaching that skill and working on that skill with them. And then, you walk away and you go, okay, we're going to try it again next time. So, but they have to learn to leave. When we have recipients who get a dog and medicine falls on the floor or some type of food, like a chicken bone or something that we don't necessarily want them to have, they have to know that they can't get it, that leave it means leave it. And so it's just something, and I know like a lot of our dogs are very squirrel motivated. Yeah, that's Bissell. Oh my God, it's a squirrel. So I immediately, when I see a squirrel down the way, I immediately start saying, leave it. That's just a squirrel. We're not going to mess with it. And I start talking to him ahead of time because I know that's a pull for him. Thanos isn't really interested in squirrels, not yet. So it just depends on which dog I have out and what I'm going to say to them. But I'm always anticipating that and kind of looking ahead and thinking, okay, what are we leaving? What are we going to leave alone? What am I going to need to tell them to leave it? And so, and like I said, both dogs are at different stages. So another thing you could try in the house is placing food like in a row and kind of walking past it. I want to say, I'm not sure if Laura did this, but I thought she did this at the Winter Park training where she put different types of food out. And I think we're going to try that again on the 18th. Is just putting down, like a pizza crust and this and that, and having your dog walk by it and see. And that's something you just do at home, like out on your front sidewalk, so that they are seeing those different items, the different things that they like to eat normally. It could be a piece of a hot dog. It could anything your dog is interested in that you don't want them to get unless it's okay. You've given them permission. So, and also, so you want to make, after you've worked 5 or 10 minutes, this isn't a 30-minute working session. It's a 5 or 10 minutes, see how they do, maybe come back to it later. And as you start to see success, you really want to reward them. So if your dog really loves tug, play tug with them. If your dog just likes the extra treats, they're very food motivated, and a little piece of chicken or something is a big reward to them, give them that after they've done a really good job. So we want to make sure that we're praising, because it's all about positive reinforcement, and that we are rewarding them either with a game that they like, what your dog's like. Bissell loves to play tug. Oh my gosh, he loves to play tug. So that would be a big thing for him. And he also loves to play Frisbee. So you find what your dog likes, because every dog is different. I know a lot of our dogs are ball motivated. And so if that's the game you play after you've had a successful training session, do that. Please make sure that you're always ending on a positive, where they've done, you've praised them and things are good. And yeah. So that they know they've done a good job. Don't end it with like, oh, you didn't get it this time. Come on, dummy. You want to really end on a time when you've really rewarded them through your praise and through maybe a treat or a playtime. Anybody have any questions about Leave It or really struggling with Leave It that we can maybe answer some questions? Now's the time. You can either say it or you can put it in the chat. It's up to you.
Our puppy is 10 weeks. When do you really start working on Leave It with them?
Right now.
At what age? Right now?
Right now. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
On leash?
Yep. So, well, and this is the thing. So that for you right now at 10 weeks, a little baby, I would start in the hand with the treat in the hand and let them smell it and put their face all over it. And I would say, leave it, and they'll eventually, when you don't give them the treat, they'll eventually, and it might take a little bit, especially for a small puppy, to turn away from it. But yeah, I usually start, all of these, I mean, all of our basic commands can be started young. You just build up to them. So you start a little bit, you know, whatever your dog's name is, don't to leave it and see if they'll ignore. Eventually, a puppy's going to get bored. They're not going to stay there forever. And as soon as that puppy turns his face away from your hand, yes, good job, and reward them with something else.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they are very much wanting to take things off the ground now. You
like
know,
everything.
yes, even Thanos, he's like a little vacuum. I mean, at 6 months old, he's like, and I'm really having to work at having him leave. Certain things he'll leave alone, but other things I'm like, what is it with you? So it depends on the dog. But yeah, at 10 weeks, I would absolutely be working on that. Just, you know, kind of as a fun game. A lot of it at that age is just a game you're playing with them and trying to get them to just respond to your commands and listen to your voice and that type of thing. So yeah, I would absolutely start it. Yeah.
Okay.
Just remember any of your training sessions or any, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty much always training somehow, whether it's I'm in the kitchen working and and I make the dog stay out of the kitchen, or I have if the dog's in the kitchen, they're on the ground. They're not, you know, like smelling and sniffing and wondering what I'm doing. If we're in the living room and I'm sitting on the couch, they're sitting at my feet. If we're outside, I'm working on some type of skill. So I feel like there's always, my brain is always in training mode. It doesn't mean the dog is always in training, but I'm always thinking about, okay, what can I work on with them that will just be even fun, just fun for the dog, you know? Can I work on recall with them? I'm outside. Can I just work on that for a few minutes? So we're always kind of in training. I mean, there are times when the dog is sleeping and relaxing and they're just being a dog. And there's sometimes when we're actually like, we're focused on training, they've got their vest on. And so you have all these pieces that you're attempting to work on training on a regular basis. So, you know, it doesn't have to be, okay, we're going to train for 5 minutes. You know, you're in the kitchen and you go, oh, I could work on leave it right now. And you put a treat in your hand and you call the puppy over and you work on that for a few minutes. Boom, you've worked on a skill that they're going to need down the road. So if you're a new puppy raiser, anybody here, that comes with time. Like my brain always being in training mode. I'm constantly thinking of places I can take the dog that will be an exposure. I'm constantly thinking of, okay, where can I go where I can fly with the dog so they get that exposure? But that's just because I've been doing it for a long time. And sometimes I just do things because I have a service dog in training and I feel like they need to go. So that comes with time. And the thing about being kind of in training mode, so to speak, it's not really a mode. It should be all the time. But we don't necessarily call it training all the time, if that makes sense. I mean, when my dog is sitting at my feet, I'm not training him, but he's learning to sit calmly at my feet and not be bouncing around my living room, you know? So even with your puppy, like if probably right now at 10 weeks, the dog is sleeping a lot, but eventually there's going to come in a few weeks, an age where they're kind of bouncing. And so at that point, I would leash him or her, and I would have her come and sit by my feet calmly. We want them to learn that. We have a few dogs right now, older dogs, who are literally bounce. And I'm wondering, well, did they never learn to like just sit calmly at your feet? You know? So I think just sitting at the living room couch can be a good thing for our dogs. Just sitting calmly, quietly, chilled out, because they're going to have to do that. That's what they're going to spend part of their time doing. So good question.
Hey, Wendy.
Yes.
Wendy, I have a question for you. And I'm sorry, this is Kathleen. I have Simon. And I disconnected for a second, but I jumped back on. I wanted to ask you a question about the leave it. And when I jumped back on, you were talking about in your house doing all this stuff, which maybe is the problem. So now that he's getting very comfortable in my house and around us, like he'll leave it immediately outdoors with his vest on, even on walks. But sometimes like if something drops, he's run to it. And in one of our calls, you were like, even pry his mouth open, don't let him swallow it ever, because he wins. So I do that, but is that probably because I'm not constantly, like when he's home, he's being a dog, you know what I mean? So maybe that's the issue.
So some of it would depend on what he's getting. So for instance, when Thanos goes and picks up a shoe, my husband's brand new shoes, I don't pry that out of his mouth and say, leave it. I run out. I will say to Thanos, oh, good boy, bring it. And I'll act very excited that he has his brand new shoe in his mouth, even though my husband's like, oh my God, get that shoe.
Yeah,
And
no,
I'm
I'm
like
talking
very
about
excited.
food. Yeah, I'm talking about food
okay.
that falls.
No, food,
So he's
absolutely.
great. Yeah, he doesn't chew any. I mean, he's great with remotes and all that stuff. It's just, I've caught him a couple times, you know, dashing over to get like, you know, a part of a rice cake that falls off. the floor.
Yep. So you need to practice it at home. Purposely drop something and practice, leave it with him, but make sure that you are on it enough that you can get to it before him, or you're ready to stick your fingers down his throat.
Yeah, okay. And that's what I've done from one of the times we
Yeah.
talked, you know, or you did a training, like I don't let him win. So I
Good. Yes.
get it out of his mouth, but
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
But he never did that before. And and he's definitely getting more comfortable here. So I thought, you know, is he just like, okay, well, it's
Right.
so
So
maybe I'm doing something incorrectly, but
right.
I think
No, if it's food, if it's something you don't want, absolutely do not want him to have, medicine, food, something he should not have in his mouth. Absolutely. They should really never be getting food off the floor. I mean, it's just not a thing. They shouldn't be doing it. Kat, who did you have before Simon?
that's it. This is my first go round. He's my guinea pig.
Oh, Simon is your first. Okay, for some reason I thought you had somebody else because you're in Tampa, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yes. So I would just work with him in the house. So if he
Okay.
leaves things good outside, now I guess maybe you need to start practicing inside.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe he's not completely understanding that he can't have food that's on the floor or other things that don't belong in his mouth. So you could have a few for him. He's an older dog. He's a prison dog. So you could absolutely practice with dropping food on the floor and very firmly tell him, leave it. And then you just pick it up and put it away. And you could reward him either. So he's an older dog. He doesn't necessarily need a treat. In fact, it probably would be better if he wasn't treated and you did something else with him. Like just play with him for a few minutes, do tug or a ball or something. We really,
I feel like he had it down when he got here, but he's getting a little comfortable because there was a point where he would not touch anything. So,
okay. Well, get him back there.
But I'll work on it. Yeah.
Get him back there. Absolutely. Yes. Good question. Okay. Any other questions or comments about leave it? Just a really important command. Super important that our dogs learn it, especially because they're out in public and we certainly don't want them licking things off of the floor. Something that I do, and I know a lot of our other raisers do, if they go into a restaurant, I kind of just check out what's on the floor. I want to set my dog up for success. And so I'm not going to go to a table that's got all kinds of crap thrown on the floor, you know, whatever. I'm thinking of my cafeteria today where some kid just like dumped cheese and all this stuff on the floor. And I'm like, so I always check underneath just to look. And as long as it's something that I feel like my dog can handle and I can say leave it and they're going to, then not a problem. Just so you're aware. You don't want to avoid a table because it's a great training experience, but you also want to set your dog up for success. So what does that mean for your dog? You have to decide that. How good are they? I've had some dogs that leave everything, and I've had some dogs who want to eat everything. So, yeah. Any other questions or comments? Now's the time. And if you think of something later, type it in the chat. So the next thing would just be about the holiday. So got holidays coming up. I'm sure for some of you, parties have already started. Maybe you're having a party at your house. Maybe you're going to a party and you're thinking of taking your dog. Maybe you're going out to a lot of things that are, outside. Our dogs need exposure. This time of year is great with all these blow up things and the lights and just all of the things that are available. Please expose them as much as you feel comfortable. We have a lot of those blow up Santa Clauses and all that in our neighborhood. The first time I took Thanos out, probably before Thanksgiving, and the first one he saw, immediately we just very slowly started to walk over to it, and he began to bark. And I said, oh, we're not going to bark at this. It's just a blow up thing. And he was like, you could tell he just was nervous. And so we kept walking. I just walked back onto the road. We kept walking and we walked around again. And the second time we got there, he didn't bark as much. He was a little bit braver. And I just said, oh, look at it, Santa. And I touched the float or whatever it was. And then we walked again and we walked around again. So I didn't force him. I didn't drag him up to the Santa. Come on, Thanos. I just kind of let him go up and smell it. And eventually got to now, last night we walked up to a different one and he just walked up and smell it. Of course, Bissell walked up and wanted to eat it. I was like, no, you can't eat it. But every dog is different. So some dogs are going to react differently. And you don't want to assure them. You don't want to be like, oh, it's okay. And I know we've talked about this before. Just tell them, hey, it's just a whatever it is, whatever you're in front of. It's no big deal. Just look at it. It's just a blow up thing. It's a Christmas time. Like talk to them like you would explain to a little kid. You don't want to tell them, oh, you're all right. It's fine. Just tell them it's a blow up thing. It's not going to hurt you. And then if you need to walk away and come back and do a re-exposure, do that. Super important that our dogs see those types of things. Dress up people. Our dogs who saw Santa and Mrs. Claus, here they are in this red get up thing. And, you know, Santa Claus had a big beard on. I don't think any of our dogs had an issue. They all wanted to go up and smell them. I don't think anybody barked at them. And everybody did a really great job. You know, they were curious, which is what we want. So a couple of people, I just had to remind them, hey, let your dog smell Santa before he sits for a picture. Because you know, he could smell like beef and cheese. I don't know. So just let them go up and smell them. And especially if you're able to, like a Christmas tree, you know, every Christmas tree doesn't smell the same, especially if there's a fake one. If you have a real one at your home, but there's a fake one out, just let them smell things. Not to the point where they're being annoying and they're pulling on you, but just kind of casually let them experience whatever you're out at. We took the dog to the parade, the DeLand parade. That was an awesome experience. We weren't right up next to the road. We were one row back and we kind of had the perfect view. So the dogs could see, they could hear, and none of them, I don't think there was a response to all the sirens, the whistles, the music, the band playing. They just kind of sat there and were like, okay. In fact, Thanos at one point turned his back on the parade and was looking into the parking lot that we were next to, kind of like he was a little bored. So, and I think that's just because he's had a lot of exposures to different things. And so he's kind of like, okay, whatever. Bissell tends to be a little bit of a barker at new people. So we were very pleased with his behavior because he didn't bark. Tons of people walking. We happened to be on the other side of the sidewalk. So lots of people walking in front of us. And people asked to pet them and we just said no. We said, we're sorry, they're working this evening. And they left us alone. So those of you that are new, that's an okay thing to say. It's all right to tell people, please don't pet my dog. He's working. I'm working on, you can even say what skill you're working on if you wanted to make it sound more official, but it's okay to tell them, no, my dog can't make a friend. Our dogs are getting a little bit too friendly because they're lovers. That's what they are. But it's really important that they keep their focus on their person, which at this point is you. You're their handler and their focus needs to be on you. So it's okay to not allow them to make a friend and to tell the person, no, I'm sorry, not today, but thanks for asking. I'm always very nice. And I used to have people who'd be like, fine. And they, walk. But now I think there are more service dogs out there and there are more service dogs in training. And I think people are realizing that, and I can't say that for everybody, but I'm experiencing, and I don't know if I'm just becoming more confident. And so people know to leave me alone. A lot of times I don't even look at people when I'm out with the dog. I hear oh, what a cute dog. And I like, nope, keep your focus on me. And I just ignore people. And then it makes me unapproachable, which works for me. So, you just have to find I know sometimes new raisers are like, oh, I gotta make a friend with everybody. You do not. In fact, it's better for the dog if you don't, because then they learn that they can't make friends with everybody. So, and I know that's hard sometimes because you've got little kids who want to pet them and they are so beautiful and they're so soft and furry, but it's really better for them and their training if we can limit those exposures. There are times like I do take our dogs to Buddy Break. I think that's a wonderful venue for them to go and experience little kids and music and running around and basketballs and just all the things. And the dogs sit and we don't let them make a friend with the kids unless they're sitting nicely, but it's all just a great training experience. So pick your times, but definitely know that it's okay to say no. And continue on the holiday. Just be aware if you're putting a Christmas tree up, that this may be the first time your dog has seen a Christmas tree, possibly if they've been in prison, or obviously if it's a puppy. So just be aware of that. My daughter's dog is a year old, and they put a Christmas tree up, and they left her for a couple of hours and came back, and they were home for a little bit and they left. And the second time they left, she destroyed 6 ornaments. She was fine for the couple of hours. So they can't quite figure that out. But so you just don't know. So you just want to be aware that that your dog is going to be curious. If you have a tree up, if you have, Christmas ornaments and or Christmas decorations and little, like I like all the noisemakers. And so just make sure that if you're going to leave your dog out and you're not going to be with them, that there's not things that they can get to in your home, because we do put things out at Christmas. I have a nativity scene that I would be horrified if one of the dogs got up on the table and ate what was there. All of my nativity scene. I would, I don't think that they would, but that's something that I have to think of. So I know last year I took all the nativity pieces, and when we were gone, if there was a dog left out, I shoved them all back so the dog couldn't get to them. It was never a problem. But even that, I mean, just be aware. Be aware kind of in your brain, okay, I'm going to leave the dog for an hour and I have ornaments that are hanging low enough for the dog to get to. It might not be a thing, or maybe you just need to fence off or gate off your tree so the dog, when you're gone, can't get to it. You decide, your home, your dog. If you've just gotten a dog and it's pretty new, I would probably crate the dog when you're not with them, when they're in the house, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. If you're having a holiday party and you're having people in, perfect time to introduce your dog to people, allow people to come into your home, meet the dog, and then maybe it's time for the dog to go and be crated for a little bit, unless they're really behaving. It is a great time for them to meet people and learn proper behavior when people are coming into your home. So if oh gosh, my dog's a jumper, I'm a little concerned, then maybe crate them until your guests come, and give the dog a little bit of time to hear the voices and the sounds of, the holiday, and then maybe bring them out on a leash so that they can be with people and sit at your feet. Maybe don't let them make a friend. Those are decisions that you have got to think of kind of ahead of time. And because, like I said, I've been doing it for a long time, those are all the things that kind of come in my brain. I take the dog to the holiday concerts, and I just decide beforehand, I'm not going to let them make a friend. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of noise. I'm just going to ignore people. I'm going to take the dog and I'm going to go to the concert, and we're going to have pictures after, but I'm not going to allow somebody to pet the dog. So those are decisions you have to make and decide what's best for you and for the dog that you have in training. So, there's a lot going on this, especially if you're a new raiser and you've just gotten a dog, this will be your first Christmas with this dog. And so just be aware of your surroundings, their surroundings, what's going to be best for them, what's going to set them up for success. That's what we're always looking at. What's going to be better for the dog? What's going to make it so that they don't eat something they're not supposed to eat. Don't get into something they're not supposed to get into. Don't ruin a Christmas gift for somebody. So, you're not going to leave your Christmas gifts all out on your bed, getting ready to wrap, and then, I got to run to the store and get something and leave the dog. That would not be smart on your part, and it would be setting your dog up for failure, because chances are they would get into it. That's just, they're curious. They want to find things out. So this is a busy time of year over the next couple of weeks. And especially if you're a new raiser, be aware of that. If you have a problem, a health problem, your dog has eaten something, please, please, please don't hesitate to call New Horizons. Don't think, oh my God, they're going to take this dog from. Call the office. Call the office immediately. Somebody will help you. And if it's after hours, they will give you an emergency number. Call that emergency number no matter what time of night it is. Somebody will help you. That's this dog is not your dog. This dog will go someday to help somebody, and we want to make sure they make it that far. So if they have a health issue, they get a hold of something and you're just not sure, call New Horizons first and they will direct you what to do and where to go if needed. Sometimes it's just a matter of, oh, do this, and you're like, oh gosh, that was easy. And other times it's a little bit more severe than that. But that's why we talked first about just being aware of your surroundings, what's in your house at Christmas time, kind of so you avoid the second part of having to call the office. But definitely, please don't ever be afraid. It's worse if you wait. Something happens and you don't call the office. That's way worse. So make sure that you call, and somebody will definitely direct you, tell you what to do, give you some advice, something, whatever you need, you're going to get sent in the right direction. So don't put that call off if you think so. Let's see, what else? Does anybody have any questions about that holiday time, calling the office?
Wendy, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi. So I recently took Basil out to a full holiday ceremony, tree lighting, the whole 9 yards, choirs, and he did great for the first 2 hours. And then he started to get silly, and unprofessional. I had him in a downstay and we were listening to a choir, and then I could tell it had been 2 hours and he was wonderful. But then he started to roll around and just really act unprofessional. So other than and trying to get him upright, which, and now there's the people that were staring and watching us the whole time. And, I try to stay unapproachable. Now they're laughing and they're like, oh, but he was so good, So how do I correct that behavior? I mean, I left very quickly afterwards because that was it for him, but he was unprofessional and silly.
So it might have been good for you to take a break, if you could have, somewhere in the middle, just to go out and give him a chance to just walk for a few minutes. You may have done that. Or
Yes.
sometimes I expect my dog to sit through a 2-hour concert, or whatever. Just dependent on their age. But he's 10 months old now?
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, I think getting up and going out and giving him a break is one thing. Did you have any treats with you?
I had treats and it was a large area. And so we did a lot of walking and through crowds. And then we took a break and we walked down to Starbucks. We got water. So he wasn't just in a downstay for 2 hours.
Okay.
We met a horse, we walked around, we bought stuff, we were all over. And it just happened to be towards the end where he was fine. And then he just started to get really silly,
Yeah. It could have been he was just done.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find dogs do that if they really have to go to the bathroom. So that's something I always check for. Like you did, you went and got water. It just, sometimes that's just, they're done. They've had enough of being out. And I mean, that's what I've found in the past with some dogs. We went to a concert a few months ago. Was it a Christmas? It was one of Susan Napier's concerts. And who did we have? I can't remember if I had Thanos or who I had, and they had been just sitting for a little while and they started to get antsy. Oh, who can I play with? And biting the leash. And I'm like, oh no, we're not going to do this. So we did. We went for a walk. We went downstairs. We went outside. I gave him a little while. In fact, I stood in the rain waiting. So, but then once we went back up, he was fine and settled back down. So, that's what I'm saying. You know your dog. So when you saw him doing that, you finally figured out, okay, it might be time to go.
Yeah.
As long as you tried everything to get him to settle back down, he may just not have been able to at that point. Maybe he overstood his stay.
Yeah, I thought that it had been a long 2 hours of him acting extremely professional and in various situations and exposures and a tremendous amount of people talking and trying to pet him and all that. So I was quite happy with him, and I just kind of chalked it up that he had been good for 2 hours and we'll work on duration, and it was just too much at that point. So
and as long as you worked on duration, that's awesome. So that brings up a great point, Nicole, because we do want to make sure our dogs are acting professionally when they're out, because they represent New Horizons. And when we're out, if you realize or you see that your dog is, okay, something is not right, Maybe they have to go to the bathroom. Maybe they don't feel good. I mean, that is, that is an option. We sometimes don't feel well. They could just be, maybe you've been busy that day and they're just tired. There's a myriad of, I don't want to put human feelings on a dog, but just, thinking about what you've been doing during that day. Is there a reason your dog is not acting like they normally would? Like if you can normally go out and they're behaving themselves, but then you have this time when they're not, then you need to decide, okay, I need to go and take the dog out. Sometimes it's just a reset. Let's just go outside. We'll try this again. But if they're still not, then maybe it's time to depart. And so we never want our dog acting like fools in public. We just don't. There are going to be times when they're silly, but when they have their vest on and they're out and they're in public, we want them acting professional. People do realize your vest says service dog in training. So they're going to make mistakes. Like I know some people, when a dog barks, they're like, oh my God, but people realize that, I think Bissell barked at the concert before the concert started because people were coming in and he literally had been out of prison for a week. And so people were coming in from all sides to sit. Now he was already seated and he barked, woof, like, hello, I see you. And then he settled and he was fine. So I think sometimes we take on, oh my God, my dog's got to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect, but we do want them to be good representatives. And so if Bissell had continued barking, Laura or I would have taken him outside. Okay, let's go out. Let's try to reset. But he didn't. I think it was once, maybe twice. And if your dog is really antsy and just having a difficult time and you're sitting and you're expecting the dog to sit, take them out wherever you are. Just take them out and see if you can reset them. If you're in somewhere like you're at Publix or you're at Target and the dogs just act, like they're biting on their leash and you need to reset them. You need to get them so that it doesn't become, you don't want it to become a playtime in their vest. Their vest is a working time. They're out in public and you need to figure it out, whether it's leaving with them or just maybe engaging them in a couple of fun commands that they know how to do really well. Maybe that's just so sometimes I know I've had dogs where I'm shopping and my focus is having the dog with me, but I'm shopping, I got to get this done. And the dog's like, hey, isn't it playtime? And they kind of start to waggle their butt and they might bite the leash. And I'm like, okay. And I now have to put my focus on the dog and I just take a few minutes and we might do a few commands. I might pull them to a back area in a store and just kind of practice different things with them. And then they kind of like, oh yes, that's what I wanted. I just needed a little bit of your attention. And I don't know that they're really thinking that, but that's what I think they're thinking. And it has worked. So you've got to figure out what works for your dog so that you're not allowing them to act like a fool when you're out in public. Because that's really important. So that they look good. And if, we've talked a few times about sometimes if you are going out for an errand and you can't have your focus on your dog, just leave your dog at home. That's okay. They don't have to go out every time. We do need them to get out and be going places and being in public. But if okay, my focus right now just has to be what I'm going to get. Just don't take the dog. And that way you won't have a problem. Some of our dogs are challenging when you go out. And I know a lot of you are working on it. So that's okay. I think little short visits, short things. Oh, I've got to run to Walgreens. I'll only be there 5 minutes. Okay, then take the dog. Give them that 5 minutes. And when you walk out of the store and they've been perfect, then it's like, yay, good job. What a good boy or whatever, girl. And have a treat ready for them. Because we do want to practice or praise those successes and set them up for success. So if you have a dog right now that is a challenge and you're a little hesitant to take them out, make them short. Make the visits short. And then that duration, like Nicole was talking about, the duration gets longer. Here she has a 10-month-old dog who she can take out for 2 hours and he acts beautifully, but it's because she's worked up to that. She's had Basil since he was 8 weeks old. And now we're at the point where this dog can be out at 10 months old and act beautifully for 2 hours. That's a long time for a dog. And I know, Nicole, does he go to work with you or he sits under your feet or something?
He goes to work with me and by the end of the day, he leaves the office and he's a little unprofessional and it's been a long day. It's
Yes.
been 9 hours. And
Yes.
so he's holding the leash and, he's very enthusiastic on the way out, whereas all day long, he's very composed and professional.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and that's a long time for him.
Yes. Yeah, it's a long day and it's a long day for a person.
Yeah.
So imagine, this dog is sat all day long, but you've worked up to that. He didn't do that at 8 weeks old.
No.
So even those dogs coming out of prison, they also, because they've not had the different exposures, now you're giving them that, but now they're a little older. So it's what we call a work in progress. And we're all there and we're all at different stages. So, continue working with them, continue putting in the time. You're going to see, I heard more than once and just in the last week, I'm seeing progress. That's all that we ask for, that you're seeing progress. If you saw this when you started with them and now you're here, that's where we want you to get, little by little. Just keep working at it, and ask questions, get help, whatever you got to do. That's always the goal. So, they're not perfect. They're still dogs. What are you doing? Come here, Nakona, come. Good girl. I don't know what she was doing. Something under my desk. I don't know what she was doing. So I think, let's see, let me just check my notes again. So we got to talk about holiday awareness, exposure. Oh, please, 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 please make sure that you are crating your dog. I don't care if the dog is 8 weeks old or 12 weeks old or 5 months or a year old or 2 years. If your dog is not a placed dog, they are in training, please make sure that you're crating them. Super important. When they leave you, they're going to the next placement, whether it's driving to the next placement where they're in a crate, they are going to be crated. So please, please make sure your dog is crated. At night is fine. If you need to do it in the daytime, and if you need to crate them in the daytime because of work and you feel comfortable leaving them out at night because they'll behave, just as long as they're getting crated at some point. I know most of us do it at night. That's just the normal time. Nakona, who is 2 and getting ready to get placed, great dog. I could trust her, but I am still crating her because she is not a placed dog yet. And after she leaves me, I don't know if she'll get transported in a crate. I just don't want her to forget what it's like. So please make sure that you are I've even suggested if it's an older dog and you trust them, do 1 night in the crate and 1 night out of the crate. It teaches them to kind of not eat everything in your house, hopefully. But it also still gives them that experience in the crate. So please make sure. We had at the last training, somebody said that they weren't crating, and we need to be crating. We need to make sure that they're getting that experience in the crate. And you know your dog, the dog that's with you, how well behaved they are. Like right now, I would never leave Thanos out at night. He's 6 months old. He's not ready for that. Now, I have left him in an area in my home where all the doors are closed except the kitchen and living room for about an hour. He's been fine. We're practicing. That's just, we're building on those skills, but I would never leave him out at night. Not yet. He's not ready for it. So creating the breeder, I would still crate them because there's a chance that when they go for when they get older, they may be put in a crate for a little bit. So I would I don't know, maybe a couple of times a week. Just, you don't ever want them to get used to not being in there, even if you just feed them in there. So somebody asked, how often should we practice crating a breeder? Yeah, I don't think the breeders are crated often, but it wouldn't hurt to make sure that they're at least still used to a crate. And it's not a problem to put them in there. I know sometimes we feel like, oh, my dog's old enough, I don't need, and I did too with my pets. But with my service dogs in training, Sage Surprise went in the good. I always crate them. And like I said, I'll do 1 night in and 1 night out. For the older dogs, the dogs that I know, they'll sleep on my bedroom floor and they won't eat everything. So your dog, what they can handle. If you're going to allow them to have an opportunity to be alone in your home without being crated, I would give them short periods of time. So maybe during the day, if you have to, like, I don't know, take a walk around the block, or if you know you're running the store and you're only going to be gone for 15 minutes, a lot can happen. So be sure that you know your dog well. Like, I know Thanos well enough, even at 6 months, to know that I can leave for a little bit and he's going to be fine in my house. There's nothing in here that he is going to hurt. I did gate off one of the rooms, but everything else, the kitchen and living room were the 2 rooms that opened. He could have eaten my couch. He didn't. I think, and I put some toys out on the floor that he had that he could play with. So just know your dog well enough. I would hate, one, for them to eat something they shouldn't be eating, or for them to hurt themselves. Or so just, everybody's home is different. You decide, but definitely please be crating your dog. That's super important. Please make sure your dog is groomed when you take them out, like not where you take them to the groomer, but where they're combed and their feet are cut. They're not got all this Grinch hair hanging all over. Just that, like, again, they're representing New Horizons. So please keep that in mind. Those are really the only things that we were gonna, I was gonna work on one more thing. Let me ask you if you have any questions. Anybody had questions that they've thought of?
So this is probably a weird one for me, particularly because I've only ever had Emerald, who's a breeder, but I'm babysitting Huey and I'm taking him to work tomorrow. And it dawned on me that I don't know about taking him like into the public restroom. Like, how do you do that? How do you manage a dog in a restroom? Do you have them stand? Do you make them sit, which is gross? It just seemed like such the oddest thing to me, but I realized I don't know what to do.
So the dog goes right in the bathroom with me.
Yeah.
They go right in, and usually I will, depending on how big the stall is, I will kind of move so they can get in, and then I just close the door, and then usually they sit down. They'll sit down right at my feet.
Okay.
I mean, if you feel more comfortable with him standing, and he'll stand, but I know most of the dogs, they are sitting there, they lie right down.
Okay.
Very few stand. So, and I don't have a problem with
Kind
that.
of like crawl under the doors. Because like the one time I took Emerald with me to Walmart and I was trying on something in the fitting room, she was trying to crawl out from under the door. I mean, but she's still a baby, so
Yes.
so that's all I could picture is, trying to, use the bathroom.
Right. So sometimes
Yeah,
the nice thing is they have that vest. So
Yeah.
there's been a couple of times when a dog will like put their nose underneath, and I just grab a hold of that vest and kind of slide them to the middle of the stall.
Okay.
So, I'm right there. We're in close quarters, so that's not really hard. I don't yank on their leash. I just grab their vest and I just pull them, or I might grab like their whole body and be like, okay, you need to be in the middle. Because they're curious.
Yeah.
Like, oh, who's under there?
Yep. Okay.
Or what's under there, And it's very often, if there's somebody in the next stall and they see the little paws, they'll be like, oh, look it. And then of course the dog's like, oh, they're making that, I've had that happen too. And then I slide them back to me. So yeah, I mean, my guess is that Huey has probably been in a restroom.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul's nodding her head. So it won't be a big deal. But yeah, those are things that you don't think about when you do it, but then you have a dog and you're like, oh, this could be a different thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Valerie says she asks Conan to stand and he does a great job. She doesn't want him lying on the icky floor. That's so funny. I've never thought about that, but okay. So they could stand. Sure.
Yeah, I gotta hug that creature. Like, I'm not hugging him after he's been on a dirty bathroom floor. That's gross.
Oh, just use some wipies. I've never thought about that. Interesting. Now, of course, the next time I take a dog into the bathroom, that's the first thing I think of. So, and them standing, you could practice brace. For especially our older dogs, they should know brace. Brace is just where they standing and they brace their body, and you use them to kind of help yourself up. Yeah, that's a great time to use brace and stand. See, always in training mode. Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Excellent question. Yeah. See, things we don't think about. I've never thought about that. Anybody else? Okay, if you can keep thinking, one thing I just wanted to talk about real quickly, because this is important, and I was working on it with the dog the other day, is really working on our downstays. Our dogs are super attached to us. They want to be where we are. They want to be next to our sides, on our feet. We're up. So we really need to work on our downstays and walking away from our dog, not necessarily taking them to Target and just try it at home. So for instance, last night I needed to get up and come to the other room, and Bissell wasn't in a downstate, he was in a sit, and he looked at me and I said, you stay. I walked out to the kitchen. I walked around purposely kind of where he couldn't see me. And then I came and I saw him, he was kind of watching, but he didn't move. And then it was only not even a minute, maybe a minute and 30 seconds. And I walked back to him and I prayed, yes, good boy, good job. But he sat there and didn't come chasing after me. So that's something we really need to work. Some of our dogs are just super attached to us, which is okay. They're going to attach to their person. They're going to love and adore their person. So right now they love and adore their handler. And our job is to get them to learn to sit, stay, and allow us to walk away from them so they don't follow, and to downstay. So, and they also have to downstay in like restaurants and that type of thing, but practice doing that and walking away. So it's going to be, you might want to start with a sit, stay, and just walking like this far away from them, depending on your dog. If it's a puppy or if it's older dog that's struggling, just a little bit away and really praise them. And then walk a little bit farther, and then walk a little bit farther. So that distance, we use that other D, get that distance in between, and then eventually get them to sit, stay, or downstay, where you can walk up to other rooms and come back and they're still there. And really high praise, maybe a high value treat as well, depending on how old the dog is. But really, really work on that. That's super important. So your dog, you can walk away from your dog and they're not going to whine and cry, because a lot of our dogs do that. So that's something we need to be working on. We will address that at the training on the 18th. So there will be an in-person training. It was originally going to be at Buddy Break, but Buddy Break got switched. And so it will be the 18th at the Winter Park train station area where we've trained before. If you've never been there, there's a parking lot there. There's parking lots, in fact, on kind of both sides. There's one right in front of the train station, and then there's a building. And then on the other side of that, where part of the farmers market is, I think is on that side. Anyway, there's usually a lot of parking. It just depends on how busy the farmers market is. But you should be able to find some. So that's on the 18th, and that's from 10 to 12. And I think that's it. And then there's a question and answer. The question and answer would be the week between Christmas and New Year's. So I think that's all. So if I don't see you at the training on the 18th, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and keep working with your dogs. We cannot do this without you. New Horizons would not exist without the volunteers. So I want you to know that New Horizons appreciates you and all that you're doing. Keep doing it. Please make sure if you have any questions that you reach out to the office, let them know. I know some of you have my text message. I usually always report back to New Horizons and just let them know who I'm working with, but please make sure you reach out if you're having any problems. This Christmas, you might just need to be a little firmer with them. Use your mad mommy voice, or I call it my mad teacher voice. So you just let them know that you're in charge, and that's okay. Have fun with them, take them out to see the sights, things that are fun. That's always a good time. The Sanford Parade is Saturday. If any of you are in, it's at night. It's a night parade. It's always a wonderful parade. I'm actually marching this year with my school, walking, and I'll have a couple of dogs with their vests on. So I'm excited. If anybody wants to join me, let me know. I just have to get you a Pinecrest shirt, but my school said it was okay if we came out and brought our dogs. So I'm excited just, for people to see our dogs. And so if you want to go, it's at 6:00. If you just want to go and see the parade, always a fun parade. They usually have activities and that kind of thing. So that's in Sanford this Saturday at 6:00. And Susan Napier is in her, is it Holiday Homecoming? The orchestra that she plays in. and there's a 300 voice choir, and it's all Christmas songs, and that's at Northland Church on Thursday and Friday nights. Awesome concert, great thing to take your dog to. And I don't, if there's things in your area, share them on the Friends of New Horizons. If you're not on the Friends page, please let Kate know that you're not on the Friends page, and we'll get you on there. There's lots of good informations and reminders. And I think that's all. Yes. So great question. Thank you. That was the last thing on my list. It says, can we send Christmas cards or dog photos to their old inmate? So you're not sending them. What you're going to do is put together a letter and or a note, a card, and a picture, and send it to the office, and they will get it. They'll get it to the
Great people.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So that would be, I know they would appreciate it. I know Laura just did that for Bissell, and she sent it from the New Horizons office did it. So
Okay.
yeah, that would be great. They would love that. So if you didn't get that, we've been suggesting over the last couple of trainings that if you have a prison dog, that you take a picture of them and maybe just share a little note of how good they're doing and whatever, and then send it to the office, and the office will get it to the prison that inmate is in. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got. Does anybody have anything for the good of the group? Everybody's good? Okay, please reach out if you have any questions, any issues. Otherwise, happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas. And I will see hopefully a lot of you on December 18th at the Winter Park train station area. I'm excited. All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas, Wendy, and
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Thank
for all
you.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Thank you.
My pleasure, always.